This is Real Estate This Week with Stephen Gasque, continuing 16 years on air and online, helping you succeed in buying, selling, and investing in property. The best real estate strategies out there just for you.
Welcome to Real Estate This Week. Hi again, I'm Stephen Gasque, and happy 4th of July. I'm so glad you're here as we talk about how to nail it every time, no matter what kind of real estate you want to do. Just you, me, and the best real estate guests in the country. And today, it's our Independence Day Doubleheader, looking at all the ways homeownership matters to our nation's veterans and active duty service members, the challenges they face, and the benefits the country provides. A topic so important, it's a double-length show. So let's begin our coverage with a realtor who specializes in helping members of the military achieve the American dream of homeownership. Joining us now is Candice Skinner, broker-owner of Candice Skinner Real Estate in Leesville, DeRidder, and Lake Charles, Louisiana, serving Fort Polk, the largest military post in Louisiana. Candice is a 2012 recipient of Realtor Magazine's prestigious 30 Under 30 Awards, which recognizes the top young real estate professionals in America. Candice, welcome to Real Estate This Week.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I am so glad you're with us. And so, Candice, first of all, happy 4th of July.
You too. I hope you're having a good time this weekend.
Absolutely. And so now that it is the 4th of July, I wanted to find out about the unique connection between American veterans and active duty service members and homeownership. Now, I know that a huge part of your real estate business involves members of the military. And so, Candice, tell us, why does homeownership matter so much to our nation's defenders?
You know, it goes so far back. I feel like it's just been the American dream. You are taking your own piece of property and curating it and making it what you want, despite, maybe having to move in a few years. People still want a hold of that. They want a hold of that dream, not to mention all the financial benefits and all the other good stuff that comes along with it. But just at the core, they want their own piece of dirt.
Interesting. And it's even more interesting when you consider that just about every member of the military could live on base. But they don't want to. They want to get out in the community and put down roots and become a homeowner. Tell us about that difference.
Oh, yeah. And we see that difference often. We see those who want to live on base and they really like it. And then, that same family, a year into living on base, will come into my office and say, you know what, we're just tired of living on base. We work there all day long. We're there nonstop. We shop, we do all the things there, and we want to be outside of work. And so they will, move off base and get involved in the community, put their kids in a local T-ball team and, just start really integrating. And a lot of people say, even though we don't have a huge metropolis outside of our base here, they just get so ingrained in the community, they love it.
Oh, that's wonderful. Now, a couple of questions about living on base. And in all the times we've talked, I don't think I've asked you these questions. First of all, is living on base free?
Well, as they say, nothing is free in this world. But they do get, our military members get BAH, which is basic allowance for housing. And when you live on base, they take that whole amount. So if you're a dual military, partners, husband, wife, whatever, they both get BAH, and that's all absorbed on post. So a lot of people want to go off post and maybe try to save a little bit of money, or get what they want, or just be in the community. They get tired of living on post where they work and do all the things. They want to be in the community and have a little bit of separation. We lived on base, and then when my husband got stationed back where we were from, we built a house, and my family's here and his family's here, so we ended up, he got out of the military, and we stayed. So it just depends on which stage you're at, but I'll tell you, I'd say, well, probably 95% of my business is military. People are buying and moving off base. They are renting off base and they are selling and they're investing and doing the things which is helping the community and making them kind of more, they feel more permanent, even for the little bit of time they're here.
Oh, that is wonderful to know. Wonderful to know. And so when people buy a house near the base but out in the community, tell me this. What happens when they all of a sudden get the orders that they have to pack up and move to another base somewhere else? What happens then, Candice?
Well, it's going to depend on your situation, really. So, most of the time, you'll have a little bit of notice if you're in the military and you're going to move. Now, those that are in special units and special forces and those kinds of things, sometimes they go a little quicker. They've only got 30 days or whatever it may be to go wherever they're going. When that happens, they come back to me, and we've already had this conversation when they're buying. What happens when it's time to go? So we're already talking, okay, if you have to leave and you've got to leave in a hurry and you don't have time to get it ready to sell or you don't want to sell, we can rent it out. And that can happen in a matter of weeks. So that'll absorb that note and let you move on. And when you move on, you can likely buy something where you're at as long as your credit and, income and everything balance out.
Oh, that's great to know. And tell me this. If I've used the VA loan to buy my house out in the community, but I get a change of station and I have to go quickly, can I rent that out and keep that VA loan?
Yes, you can. And if you go to the next station and you want to buy again, they're probably going to ask you for a copy of your lease. And so you just, for where you were, and that way they know that that income is there to cover that note. So you can't go in saying, hey, I'm buying rental property. But if you end up on the other side with rental property because you had to move, then it ends up being a really, really wonderful thing.
Candace, that just makes me smile, knowing that
Yes.
our active duty service members are going through the paces of home ownership and defending our country at the same time, but some of them are becoming real estate investors along the way. That is great to know.
Oh, it is. And it's so good to see. We get to see both ends of the spectrum. We see when they first come in and they're thinking about it, I really want to buy, but I'm really worried and not sure. And then maybe they get stationed somewhere else for a while and then they come back to see us again. And they've got 3 or 4 homes and they said, thank you so much for helping us, really encouraging. Every place we've gone, we've bought a home. And so at the end of that, we see those that have gotten out and they have this beautiful portfolio and they're still investing. So it really can be a life-changing thing, just that first house.
Oh, that is just so wonderful.
Yes.
And so, another question. Say that a couple is buying a house in the community and using the VA loan, and they're getting ready to do it. And then all of a sudden, either the husband or the wife is deployed overseas, and their signature is going to be required at the closing table. What do you do?
Well, what haven't we done? That's the real question. Short of flying over to where they're at, no. Fortunately, when they're deployed, there's going to be a notary usually within that deployment or whatever base they're going to. There's going to be somebody who's a notary. There's going to be some JAG officers. So they do typically help us facilitate maybe getting a power of attorney, or if you know you're leaving and you can set that up ahead of time, then we go ahead and we get that power of attorney for the spouse to sign or whoever needs to be the one appointed to do that. Or we send the documents digitally. They print them out, whatever station they're at overseas. Notary notarizes everything and gets it back to us, and then we're able to go to closing. As long as we have a live and well statement, we go to closing.
Excellent. But Candace, what if you can't know where they are? What do you do then?
So if they know in advance that they are with a unit or with someone who we can't really have any contact with whatsoever, then we typically can. Those guys are so prepared. They don't leave anything to question. They go where people don't know for a reason, and that's because they're well trained, very smart. They forget nothing. So, but they're also so chill and easy to get along with, so that it's a really good group of people to work with. And so in those moments, we just prepare ahead of time. They're about to go. We get POAs done. We get power of attorney to do whatever needs to happen, to happen.
But what happens if they're way, way out in the field? how do you get their signature then?
It comes back to us. Okay. Now, how they do this, I really don't know, but I'll tell you one time, we had someone when they got back, they shared this with us. Okay, they said, look, we had this notary come out where we were at. They were way out somewhere in Afghanistan. This notary had to go pretty darn far to get there, and I'm sure it was probably pretty dangerous. This is during the time with all the IEDs and crazy things going on over in the Middle East, and now things are going pretty crazy too, but specifically Afghanistan. And gosh, they said, I don't know how y'all got them convinced to come out there, but they did. And so, it happened. But the crazy things, watching the military do what they do and being on this end, when they want to get something done, they get it done. And we just get to hear the fun parts about it when they get back.
That is an amazing story, Candice. And so now, as we celebrate the 4th of July, tell me, Candice, how do you feel knowing that 95% of your work helps our nation's veterans and our nation's active duty service members achieve the American dream of homeownership?
When you phrase it like that, it genuinely just reminds me and just moves me just to tears that we are so blessed to be able to do what we do to help these people. My father was in the military, his father was in the military, my uncles and my husband. And, so we've got a long line of family, that was in the military. And gosh, and then my dad was in real estate too, so it just really just moves me in a lot of different ways to be able to serve those who serve us, knowing what they go through over there on so many different levels and so many different aspects, from daughter, wife, all that good stuff. It is a really special thing.
That's wonderful. And Candice, having known you for so many years and talked to you so many times, I'll never forget one thing that I can always rely on when it comes to you. And that is when a military family says, Candice, thank you for everything you've done. Your response is always, no, thank you.
Absolutely. I fully am so grateful. I would not be able to do what I do without them. And really, our freedom depends on them too. So it's just, it's the ability to serve them is a blessing.
Well, Candice, I always love having you on the show, and I really appreciate you joining us on this 4th of July. And I want to thank you for everything you do, and also thank your husband for his service. And also, I want to express my gratitude that you've helped so many members of the military achieve homeownership. Thank you, Candice.
Thank you for having me. You are a blessing as well.
Thank you. Candice Skinner, broker-owner of Candice Skinner Real Estate in Leesville, DeRidder, and Lake Charles, Louisiana, serving Fort Polk, the largest military post in Louisiana. Candice is a 2012 recipient of Realtor Magazine's prestigious 30 Under 30 Award, which recognizes the top young real estate professionals in America.
You're listening to Real Estate This Week with Stephen Gasque.
And now let's continue our Independence Day Doubleheader with a deep dive into what's called the best mortgage in America, the VA loan, and what it means to our nation's veterans and active duty service members. Information you need to know if you're a vet or on active duty, or if you know someone who is. Joining us now is Chris Birk, the Vice President of Mortgage Insight for Veterans United Home Loans, the nation's #1 VA lender for home buyers. Chris, welcome to Real Estate This Week.
Stephen, it's so good to be with you as always. Thanks so much for inviting me back.
You are very welcome, and I'm so glad you're here because we have a lot to talk about this 4th of July. Let's talk about what's called the very best mortgage ever in America, the VA loan. Chris, right off the bat, why is it the best mortgage in the country?
Stephen, how much time do we have? This is a benefit that's been helping generations of veterans, military members, and their families achieve the dream of homeownership. It just recently turned 81. It's backed more than 28 million home loans in that 81 years, changing trajectories, changing financial futures, changing lives for World War II veterans all the way to 18-year-olds who are using this benefit to buy their home right now in communities across the country. It is, and as always has been, the signature loan in the nation that offers something that a lot of people don't even know is possible anymore, and that's the ability to buy without a down payment. It has been no down since day one, and despite that, it's also remarkably been the safest mortgage on the market for most of the last 20 years. It has so many benefits in addition to that that help open the doors of homeownership, especially for younger veterans and service members, and make this possible in a way that it's such a struggle so often with conventional financing. Just the ability to not have a down payment, that alone makes something that often feels out of reach suddenly within grasp. And when you add on the lowest average interest rates on the market, limits on closing costs and fees, the fact that these loans are assumable, there is a host of benefits that when you package them together, it really does add up to what's arguably the best mortgage on the market.
That is wonderful, Chris. And here's my goal today. I would like you and I to talk about the VA loan and make sure every single person listening to this show walks away knowing all about it, so either they or someone they know can benefit from our conversation. How's that?
Well, that sounds amazing. And I'm glad you hit on the someone they know, too, because the people in the lives of military members and veterans and in their communities can play such a pivotal role just by asking questions, just by getting curious, just making sure that the veterans in their lives and in their spaces know they have this benefit available.
Excellent. And Chris, let's run down the list now of what people need to know. First of all, the VA loan is to be used for your primary residence. You can't use it to buy a rental property, and you can't use it to buy a houseboat. It has to be your primary residence, correct?
Yeah, houseboats and RVs. Every so often, I'll hear from veterans, and it's no. It needs to be considered real property. Neither of those two things typically are. You can, and it's like the other government-backed loans. VA isn't any different in this regard. That with FHA and USDA as well, the intent is really focused on helping people get into homes that they're going to live in. We're seeing Generation Z veterans and service members in particular just in droves turning to this benefit just in the last couple of years alone. They're using it like most of us use it to buy a place where you're going to put down roots, but it's also a benefit you can use in conjunction with new construction if you're looking to build a home, manufactured housing, which has become increasingly important in some markets. So there's a lot of things that it can do. And part of that is really because it's focused on being a benefit to those who've served.
Excellent. And another thing that's really important for people to know is it's not a one and done. You can use this benefit repeatedly throughout your life as long as you just follow the rules.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And that is, I think, consistently year in, year out, that is the single biggest misconception about VA loans. There are countless veterans who don't realize, or they were never told, that this isn't a one-time benefit. This is something that they can turn to over and over again. It's even possible to have multiple VA loans at the same time. It is something that offers incredible flexibility and access to the housing market that few other products can provide. And it's once you earn it, it's a benefit that you've earned for life.
Oh, that is great. And another thing we should tell everyone, Chris, is that if you bought with a high mortgage interest rate, you can also refinance using the VA loan.
Boy, can you. I was looking at the numbers recently. The government's fiscal year, starts in October and ends at the end of September. And so we're halfway through the fiscal year. It's amazing how fast time goes by, especially as I get a little grayer in the beard. But looking at the first half of this year compared to the first half of last year, and VA refinance is up 150% half year over half year. So we are seeing veterans use this benefit not just to plant those roots and buy that house, but to tap into their home equity is something they can do, and to lower their rate, their overall payment through the VA's streamline option. So yeah, it isn't just about home buying, it's about sustainable home ownership and affordable home ownership for the long haul that helps ensure that veterans are getting the most from what they've earned.
Excellent. And Chris, a few minutes ago, you said that most veterans do know that they have this benefit. But what about active duty service members? Do they also realize that they can move off base and buy a house using the VA loan?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it really depends on the service member and the duty station and what they're learning there with boots on the ground. But it is something that not every active duty service member knows. And there's no there's no age limit when it comes to using this benefit. So I was looking a couple of weeks ago, and to see, when I look through a list of the folks that we help every single month, and I see 18, 19-year-olds on that list, some of them, there aren't too many of them, but some of them who are working with us for not their first home purchase, it is remarkable to see that there are young active duty service members out there who know what they've earned, but there are plenty more who don't. And depending on where you are in your specific circumstances, you can not just buy a house with this benefit, but you can use some of your other VA benefits, some of the benefits you're already earning as a part of the armed forces, to help make homeownership more affordable out of the gate. And so basic allowance for housing is the heavy duty hitter when it comes to here. And depending on your specific circumstances, you might be getting a certain dollar amount every single month from the Defense Department to pay for your housing. And you can put some or all of that toward a mortgage payment. So you're effectively having the Defense Department and the government, and we, the people who are here looking for ways to thank you every single day, you can use that allowance to make this dream a reality.
Excellent. And Chris, tell me this. Here we are at the 4th of July. Tell me, what does this benefit mean to our nation's veterans and our nation's active duty service members?
Well, it has meant life-changing opportunities for generations of veterans and service members and their families. This is a benefit that's helped transform not just communities, but in a lot of ways, the entire country. We did a survey and study last year, which was a big year. It was the 80th anniversary of the GI Bill, the 80th anniversary of this benefit, and found that it has contributed, the VA loan program has contributed nearly $4 trillion to the American economy since its creation. So this is something that is helping a World War II veteran in their sunset golden years. This is something that's helping an 18-year-old who is following in their very heavy footsteps 8 decades later. It is creating generational wealth for those who serve our country, and it is really showing what a commitment can look like, not just in a year or 5 years, but a long-term commitment to helping safeguard the people who safeguard us.
Excellent. And Chris, as I leave you, let me ask you to talk directly to any veteran or any active duty service member who might be listening to our conversation. What would you like them to know?
Primarily just know that you've earned something that could be incredibly transformational for you and your family and your financial future. That isn't to say that you should come to Veterans United Home Loans or you should get a VA loan automatically. Just know that it's a benefit that has proved itself over the decades, it's absolutely worth taking a closer look. Still shop around, talk with trusted lenders, get rate quotes and cost and fee quotes, and look at it between conventional and VA or FHA or anything that is open to you. But just knowing that this is a benefit out there that is so impactful and has been for generations can help you at the end of the day make the best financial decision possible.
Well, Chris, I really want to thank you for being on the show today and telling us all about the VA loan. And I'd also like to wish you a very happy 4th of July.
Stephen, same to you. Thank you for all you continue to do and have been doing for years to help educate the community.
You are very welcome. Chris Birk, the Vice President of Mortgage Insight for Veterans United Home Loans, the nation's #1 VA lender for home buyers.
You're listening to Real Estate This Week with Stephen Gasque.
And now it's time for Beyond the Basics, in which we bring your real estate knowledge to the next level. And today, as we celebrate the 4th of July, you just heard us talk about the VA loan. But now, let's also talk about some of the other ways the United States supports homeownership. Because after all, money experts will tell you, owning a home of your own is the pathway to financial independence. And so, the 4th is a great time to take a look at that. One thing you might not think of, but it's really important, is the 30-year fixed-rate mortgage. A mortgage that's split into 360 payments. Payments that will never go up, meaning it's affordable. And you can depend on that same payment for 30 years. Now, sure, your property taxes might go up and your homeowner's insurance might go up, but not that mortgage. Other countries have fixed-rate mortgages, but nothing quite like the 30-year conventional fixed-rate mortgage that 90% of Americans use to pay for their homes. Also, the capital gains exclusion. Now, this one's huge. If you make a great big profit when you sell your house, first of all, congratulations. But the capital gains exclusion says your profit is tax-free if, as a married couple, that profit is $500,000 or less. And if you're single, $250,000 or less. Just imagine getting that kind of paycheck tax-free. It's pretty great. Now, there are rules, as you might expect, but not that many. You must have lived in the house 2 years out of the last 5, and it has to be your primary residence, not an investment property. But it's an official part of the U.S. tax code, so it's the real deal. Another way America supports homeownership happens in cities and towns and states all across America. Down payment assistance. Programs designed to help homebuyers get into a house of their very own. They're in all 50 states. In some of them, you have to pay the money back when you sell the house. In others, if you live there 5 or 10 years, it's automatically forgiven. And still others don't require any repayment at all. Those programs have helped people from coast to coast get into a home of their own without having to save for another 5 or 10 years. Now, those are just a few of the ways America supports homeownership. It's part of the backbone of the nation. And as we celebrate the 4th of July, it's pretty clear why homeownership is called the American dream. Next time on Real Estate This Week, good news for home buyers. More houses are coming up for sale in many markets. And for buyers, that means more choices and less competition. But what's it mean for home sellers? That's next on Real Estate This Week. And until then, I'm Stephen Gasque, and thank you for listening.
A brand new episode of Real Estate This Week with Stephen Gasque drops every Thursday, everywhere. And you're invited to listen, subscribe, and follow us. Just look for Real Estate This Week with Stephen Gasque. The best real estate strategies out there, just for you.